Tiger Yap. 26, mind you, not Tiger Yap 25 or 24. This is Tiger Yap 26 coming at you, live and living color. His college football hypothetical that he has for us is some SEC madness. In his hypothetical, Georgia loses to Ole Miss. Okay, got it. Tennessee then loses to Georgia. Okay, keeping track. And then in the SEC title game, you get Texas playing LSU, and LSU, according to Tiger Yap 26, wins the SEC over Texas. So LSU is your SEC champ. So in this scenario now, he says we would have 5 10-2 SEC teams. We actually would have 4 10-2 SEC teams, but we have another 2-loss SEC team in Texas in the college football playoff, or in that college football playoff discussion hypothetical. So let me just backtrack for you a little bit here. This is how it would look. College football sickos, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Talking ball, nothing but ball, year-round. We appreciate you in advance for being dialed in and for being subscribed. You would have Georgia, based on this hypothetical, at 10-2. You would have Tennessee, based on this hypothetical, at 10-2. You would have LSU at 10-2, but winning the SEC with only one loss. Remember, that one loss is at Texas A&M. You would have Ole Miss, in this scenario, winning out at 10-2, and hypothetically, the team that would also be a 2-loss team with losing the title game in Atlanta, assuming they beat A&M and make it there, is Texas. So you got 4 10-2 and 1 11-2. For all y'all keeping track at home, we're going to go team by team here and tell you who gets into the college football playoff, because this is, I don't think it's the wildest scenario in terms of like likelihood, but here's how it would look. Obviously, LSU, you win the SEC. Congratulations, punch your ticket. Vibes are immaculate in Baton Rouge. Go Tigers. And you got a first-round bye. You're in the college football playoff. Now, Texas, let's just be real here. The Big Ten and SEC runner-up, they're not getting left out. I know it's an at-large bid, but like Texas at 11-1 during the regular season and then dropping a game to LSU with their only losses on the resume for Texas, by that logic, being the SEC champ, and against Georgia, you're probably in the dance. All right? So then, you got Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Do they all get in? I'll preface with this. I think there is a world now where all three do make the college football playoff based on their resumes. However, I don't know how likely that is. So for Georgia now, 10-2, with hypothetically their only losses being at the time now, a top 5 Bama in Tuscaloosa, and then at Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss was number 16 last night, so it's not a top 10 loss, but again, you know, it's respectable in some sense, also on the road. But the wins now, the wins in this hypothetical, you obviously already have the win over and at a top-ranked Texas. You have a win against Clemson, and when you got that win, that was a pretty quality ranked win. All right, so we'll see how it ages. I know Clemson's not top 15 anymore, but when you got that win, now Clemson was a somewhat more respectable opponent, at least a more respectable ranking. And then, again, in this hypothetical, we have Georgia beating Tennessee. And Tennessee, in this conversation, is right now at least a top 10 team. Have to believe that'd be the case when they would play them and beat them. So I think, again, committee keeps valuing eye test. We got Georgia at number 3 right now in the college football playoff rankings. I think that win over Texas means a lot. I just think the eye test plus the resume, I would have a difficult time seeing a world where Georgia at 10-2 gets left out of the college football playoff. So I think LSU, Texas, Georgia, you're all in. Let's go to Tennessee. Tennessee would have, by this logic, a loss to a top 10, ideally, if this is a situation where you get them after Ole Miss, they lose to Ole Miss. A lot going on. Roll with me. Let's say Georgia's top 10 when you play them, and you lose to them. Your losses are unranked Arkansas on the road. You've made some amends since then, with them being a top 10 team right now in Tennessee, so that's great. And then your losses also to a top 10 Georgia. So those 2 losses, not the worst thing in the world. The wins, though, are also pretty quality. You have a win over a ranked Bama. I am of the opinion that wins should be frozen when you get them. Doesn't mean that they're just, okay, that was a top 25 win, you go ahead and freeze it forever, and that's, all you look at it as. No, it's a ranked win when you got it. However, we do have to keep a pulse on how it ages. You do have 2 other ranked wins in your back pocket if you're Tennessee. The win over NC State. NC State has not been the same team ever since. I understand that. However, when you got it, top 25 win. So we'll give you some credit for that. And then the win at Oklahoma. Again, when you got it, top 20 win. Hasn't aged great. I totally get that. But I do think that deserves a little bit of respect when we talk about Tennessee. I think I feel less confident about Tennessee making the playoff in this hypothetical than Georgia, but I do think that Tennessee would actually find their way in, especially because of what the committee is saying about them right now being a top 10 team in these initial rankings and because of the quality wins. Now, Ole Miss is a curious case because their losses would in this point be to a SEC champion LSU, and you would have a loss at Kentucky. Ooh, Kentucky one's not looking good. I get it. But the win that you have to your name is a number 3 ranked team in America coming to your place, and you beat them this weekend. That would start the party, all right? That would get this conversation some real legs. The worry for me with Ole Miss is you have that Georgia win that's awesome, but you scan the rest of the schedule and you're like, all right. Well, South Carolina, that win's aging great, but like outside of that, I don't see a lot of other meat on the bone to make me say, hey, Ole Miss, you're in the dance. And maybe the Georgia win's enough for the committee. I don't know, but that's one that concerns me a little bit because I think the spot you're competing for is Ole Miss is probably up against a lot of other one-loss outfits. And again, Ole Miss would have 2 losses. So you're up against a 1-loss Notre Dame, who would have, at this point in time, at the end of the season, if they end up being a 1-loss team, 4 ranked wins more than likely. You're up against a 1-loss Indiana. Their only loss is to a probably top 2 Ohio State. Same deal with Penn State, top 5 loss to Ohio State. Like, you see where I'm going with this? I have a difficult time seeing the committee putting Ole Miss in over one of those teams. Not that it couldn't happen, but I have a more difficult time giving Ole Miss the nod here. So I think all could potentially have a case to be in the college football playoff if we get that SEC madness where a bunch of them have 2 losses. But as of right now, I'm going to say that you get 4 out of those 5 into the college football playoff, and some 1 losses from other conferences, or the independents rather, end up spoiling that for Ole Miss.